Things are starting to get incredibly interesting on the Nintendo front, with rumors swirling about the Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Cons, potentially there being Hall effects, so no more Joy-Con drift, information about the dock and the system itself, the screen size, and what is going on. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on as we head into the new year, where Nintendo's probably going to be launching new hardware. But let's talk about something that a lot of you guys have asked me questions about, and I wanted to make a formal video on it. I've dabbled in it just a bit, discussing what Nintendo's going to do with late Nintendo Switch games like Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, and the chances of that being on the Nintendo Switch 2 having an upgraded version. Now, keep in mind, guys, there will be full backwards compatibility with the Nintendo Switch 2. So once you get that shiny new system, whenever you do get it, all of your Nintendo Switch 1 games should work, in addition to your online digital games as well, those working too. So if you have NSO, that should carry over, your account's going to carry over, and your digital games will carry over. So it's a pretty good thing that Nintendo got that taken care of to let people know, because there was a lot of speculation. But what about some of these late Nintendo Switch games that could absolutely use the bump in power that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to provide? Is there a chance a game like Xenoblade Chronicles X, a massive, huge, open world adventure that honestly could probably run in 60 frames per second plus and a higher resolution on the Nintendo Switch 2, could that come over? Well, we're going to talk about that and how it might be more likely than what first was put out there. But before we get into that, what's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, and click that notification bell to get my Xenoblade, Nintendo Switch, and live stream videos as soon as they drop. Now let's go ahead and jump right into this, because I found it, like I said, to be incredibly interesting hearing all the people talk about this and ask me questions. So Xenoblade Chronicles X, what are the chances that it actually comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 as well as the Nintendo Switch 1? So the game is dropping on March 20th, if I'm not correct, 2025. So that's going to be a lot of fun to have an early big game like that brought over from the Wii U. But could it come out on the Nintendo Switch 2? And why has it taken so long? That's one of the major things that people ask about, is what took them so long to bring out Xenoblade Chronicles X, considering that it's been out since 2015. Why didn't they do it sooner? And I think that there's a combination of things. One, they talked about that already, saying like, hey, look, it'd be hard to do because of the money that it would take to do it. But I think that the bigger reason why they weren't able to get it out sooner was because they were still right there in the middle of creating the Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy story. So you have Xenoblade Chronicles 2, we know about Torna, obviously they finished that up around the time that they talked about this, and then there was also Xenoblade Chronicles 3, plus Future Redeemed, there was Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. All of that stuff was still in the future at the time that they were asked about Xenoblade Chronicles X. There just wasn't enough time or resources in order to truly get something like that done. Now, maybe if it was a quick and dirty port, then maybe they could have done that. I think they could have done that way quicker, but I don't think they wanted to do that. Considering the way that Xenoblade Chronicles finished up, I think that the fans would expect something a little bit more, and that's what we're getting here with Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. So I think that's one of the reasons why it took longer, along with the fact that, yes, it would be an expensive thing, but I also think at the same time, Nintendo might have been thinking about the Nintendo Switch 2, and allow me to actually talk about this. Once again, Xenoblade Chronicles X is one of the most exciting games, in my opinion, one of the most exciting open world games made in the HD era. And the reason why I say that is because it has a huge, seamless open world with combat that is completely unique to anything else that you've played. Yeah, there's some MMOs or certain stuff that might kind of be reminiscent of it, but honestly, there's really nothing else like it on the market. And you take that combat system that they have, that's pretty unique. You have an online multiplayer as well. You combine that with the seamless open world. It was a marvel on the Wii U, and now they're bringing that, remastering it, making it even better for the Nintendo Switch. And oh, by the way, you can play it anywhere that you want, even playing that type of game on a Nintendo Switch Lite, which is just crazy that it even can overall, if you look at like the form factor and then you just look at the type of game that it is. So taking that experience and enhancing it, potentially even upgrading the online in the game and other things that I've talked about as well, which they could do, I think that's a huge proposition, why it's super exciting, and I think they wanted to truly take their time to make sure that they flesh out what the game is going to be. So I think that's another reason why that it took so long to come out, but it's incredibly exciting considering how good Xenoblade Chronicles X is. For those who don't know, Xenoblade Chronicles X, it doesn't have the typical protagonist like Shulk or Rex or Noah and Mio. It's actually you. You're an avatar in the game and you don't really talk at all, but of course, you know, they imply that you talk, but you don't hear it essentially, and you put yourself kind of in those shoes as an explorer of this unique and different type of world that you crash landed on, but all sorts of crazy stuff happens and you really truly find out the truth about what's happening, but it doesn't just finish the way that you would have hoped for it. So this is finally the redemption for Xenoblade Chronicles X being stuck on a system that unfortunately did so terrible it was going to be hard to truly get out most games' potential, which is why you saw a ton of games being brought over from the Wii U to the Nintendo Switch. But it's very cool that Xenoblade Chronicles X is finally making its long-awaited debut on newer hardware here with the Nintendo Switch. So how can this game benefit from a Nintendo Switch 2 version? So if you look at the original game, that ran at 720p, 30 frames per second, and probably from a technical perspective, one of Monolith Soft's best, if not their best, outside of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Now, if you look at the Nintendo Switch version, it looks like they've upped it to 1080p resolution, but the frame rate is still going to be 30 frames. Now, for a slower paced open world RPG like this, it's not going to be a do or die or make or break for the game. It's still going to play really good. It plays good on the Wii U if you played it on there, so it's not going to be too much of a problem, especially if you get that experience anywhere that you want. But it would be awesome if it can actually run at 60 frames per second. I think that would be super cool, and obviously it looked fluid and everything with that huge open world and the wildlife and how things interact with the environments, how you have the different scales and just the effects, everything that they've done with this game. It would just be beautiful. I've seen it when it comes to it running at 60 before in terms of people, you know, emulating and looking at it in certain types of ways. So imagine having that running on a Nintendo Switch 2 and looking as good as that, because the power of the Nintendo Switch 2, from what we're understanding here, from what the leaks have said, it is a significant bump above the Nintendo Switch, and with modern technology like DLSS, it's going to be even better for developers and especially Nintendo, working with probably the strongest system that they've ever had in terms of a power jump in the modern era. It's been kind of smaller jumps here and there with what Nintendo's done with the 3DS and what Nintendo's done with the Wii U and the Switch, but this is a huge jump from the previous system, whereas Wii U to Nintendo Switch, nowhere near as big of a jump as what we're looking at here potentially. So Monolith Soft is the one that can truly take advantage of what the Nintendo Switch 2 will be able to do. So I feel that this game, if it did come to Nintendo Switch 2, I feel that it would really benefit a lot from it, not just from having that extra horsepower, but just the design of what Monolith does with their games. Even an older game being brought over could benefit from it. So how likely is it that they go that route? Well, I think it's very likely that they go that route, and I'll give you guys a couple reasons why. It's launching super late into the life of the Nintendo Switch. That almost screams as if, yeah, we're going to have this. Like, you can play it, it's backwards compatible, but I'm telling you, like, if you want, we'll have an update for it, or maybe it'll just naturally run better. We don't know what type of technology, how it's going to interact with previous Nintendo Switch 1 games. We don't know if they're going to be doing something like how Microsoft does it, and I'm not sure if it's going to go that far, because Microsoft has some good stuff that they do overall. But remember, this is the first time Nintendo has something here with a newer architecture, what they're doing in NVIDIA. You know, this is going from what they've done before, which is PowerPC. There were so many different things that they did, and what they did with their portable systems that were just not able to do what we can see right now with NVIDIA. So I do feel that Nintendo could have something lined up here for that. I also think that it would benefit Xenoblade Chronicles X and its sales if it did have a Nintendo Switch 2 version and it can really shine on that new system. So I do think that there's multiple reasons why Nintendo would ultimately decide to do something like this. And I think that it can also lead, or more like promotion, into what Monolith Soft is doing next. One of the best ways to sell future games is for your current games to be incredible and to have a good impact with the gamers. You have a great Nintendo Switch version of the game. Obviously, you have 150 million people to sell the game to, but then if you have an upgraded Nintendo Switch 2 version, one, you get extra publicity. People are going to be talking about it on YouTube videos and discussing it, and it's just going to get you free publicity overall. Then, of course, your name, Monolith Soft, that's going to be out there, people talking about it more. So I think that it also gives a positive buff into the next game that you're doing. One of the reasons why Monolith Soft is so celebrated in the gaming industry is because of how they run things, because of how clean it is. You don't hear about any crazy stuff happening at the studio when it comes to how it's run, or the employees, or their pay, or anything like that. You basically get a studio and a company that has a great track record, that's consistently hiring great quality talent, and people are excited about their next game. Despite them not selling the most copies of their games, people are really excited because of what they bring to the table. They're able to do more with less. They're able to take a system like the Wii and create Xenoblade Chronicles. I don't think there's another developer in the world that could have created something as good as that in terms of, from a technological perspective, on the Nintendo Wii, because nobody else did that. And if they could do it, they weren't willing to actually do it. Whereas Monolith Soft and Nintendo got that done. If you look at what they've done with the Wii U, right? Same type of thing. Even with the Nintendo Switch, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is incredible. I don't even know how they got everything to look as good and play as good as it does. They hit some rough spots with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but they bounced back so hard with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and the tech they were able to put in there to improve the image quality, get things running better, and be able to have something like 7 characters on screen all fighting at the same time, seamlessly going into battles in an open world. I mean, it's pretty crazy overall. On the Nintendo Switch with 2015-ish type of hardware. Now imagine what they're going to be able to do with the Nintendo Switch 2. This is going to be a true leap for them. So I see them flexing their muscle a little bit with something like Xenoblade Chronicles X, and even potentially having something like a Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy. I think that these are all type of things. If you get Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and all of the DLC and expansions in one package, 1080p, 60 frames per second, that would be something huge as well. And maybe Xenoblade Chronicles X is separate. Now, they could do upgrade pass. If you already have the game, you pay a certain amount, you get upgraded, or they could probably re-release it as well. I see them doing something like how PlayStation has it done, to where some games might have upgrade pass, but then other games will just be re-released, or a combination of the two. But either way, I think that it's exciting overall for Xenoblade fans, just because we're finally going to have everything on the Nintendo Switch. People have been asking for this for so long at this point. Can we have everything on the Nintendo Switch? And it's happening at this point. March 20th, every single Xenoblade Chronicles game with all the DLC will all be available on one platform for the first time in Monolith Soft Nintendo history as well. So that's also exciting. But lastly, I want to say this when it comes to Monolith Soft and Xenoblade. Whatever they're working on next, people talk about what the next thing is for them. I've made multiple videos on potential new IP and potential continuation of Xenoblade, or whatever the case is. Monolith Soft has officially stated that they are working on something very different from what they've worked on before, which would be Xenoblade Chronicles titles. They've been working on those for quite some time. So I would expect it can still be a Xeno title, but I would expect it to be Xeno something else. I think that they're going to change up the gameplay style. They could go back to straight up turn-based overall. They could do an ATB system. There's a lot of different variety of ways they can go with, but I expect it to have a very different type of combat system, but uniquely be tied back to Xeno in some type of way. But if you finish the Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy, especially with Future Redeemed and Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I think that that could be the way that they decide to go in terms of that ending, and essentially create a new gameplay style for the Xeno whatever universe and what's going on from there. So that's incredibly exciting too, and I think that we'll probably see that game more sooner than later overall, because Monolith Soft and Nintendo always love to showcase what the next system can do by showing off a Monolith Soft title. It gets people excited overall. So what are your thoughts when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles X and its chances on the Nintendo Switch 2? What do you think Monolith Soft is going to do in the future when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles? Could they bring all the games over to Switch 2? And what do you think is going to happen with Monolith Soft's next title as big Xeno fans? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more right here on screen. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.